Imagine waking up and realizing the game you've been playing, the pursuit of success, recognition, and purpose, was never designed for you to win. The rules, they weren't built for your growth. They were built to protect the system, to keep things predictable, to reward obedience, not originality. From the moment you could walk, you were handed a script. Follow this. Study that. Work hard. Stay in line. Retire. If you're lucky. But what if the entire structure wasn't truth, just tradition? What if life isn't a fair game, but a fixed one? You were handed a board game at birth, but the rules were written before you could even read by people who never planned for you to win. But here's the shift. The moment you realize the rules are made up, you can change them. You can flip the game, redesign it, or walk away entirely. So ask yourself, are you living by rules you chose, or ones you were conditioned to obey? And more importantly, whose game have you been playing? From the moment we're born, we're handed a script, not on paper, but in expectations, in norms, in silent assumptions about what life should look like. We're taught to follow a path, one that's been walked 1,000 times before. Go to school, get the grades, pick the safe career, don't ask too many questions, fit in, play it smart, retire, hopefully fulfilled. That path is the invisible script. It's not written by you, it's written for you. By society, by institutions, sometimes even by well-meaning parents. But here's the problem. When you follow a script you didn't write, you end up living a story that isn't yours. Most people don't even realize they're in it. They're just playing the role they were cast in, and they wonder why it feels like something's missing. We're led to believe that success comes from obedience, that staying in line earns rewards. But that's a half-truth, and half-truths are dangerous. Psychologist Carol Dweck proved this in her work on the growth mindset. She showed that traits like intelligence and talent aren't fixed. They grow with effort, strategy, and belief. And if that's true about people, then it's true about the systems around them. Life is not a rigid structure. It's a design that can be reworked. Rules can be bent. Systems can be rebuilt. Games can be flipped. Look at Sarah Blakely. She didn't have a background in fashion. No Ivy League degree. No venture capital. She was selling fax machines door to door. But she saw a problem. No one else noticed and refused to wait for permission to solve it. She built Spanx from the ground up, not because she followed the rules, but because she ignored them. She wasn't interested in fitting in. She was determined to stand out, and the world took notice. But this isn't just about business. This is about agency, about choosing how your story unfolds. Take Tyler Perry. He didn't see himself in the roles being offered, so he wrote his own. He created a universe of characters and stories, and built one of the most successful entertainment brands in America, not by following the script, but by writing a new one. These aren't anomalies. They're examples of what happens when someone sees the script and chooses not to follow it. Because once you see it, you can question it. And once you question it, you can change everything. Here's the deeper truth. You're not just following a script. You're living inside a belief system. One that tells you what's realistic, what's appropriate, what's acceptable. But ask yourself, who defined those things? And more importantly, why are you still following them? You don't need to burn the script, but you do need to know it's there. Because until you do, it's running your life. Every decision, every compromise, every silent frustration, they all trace back to a story someone else wrote for you. But you're not a background character. You're not here to play it safe. You're here to take the pen back. So here's the question. Whose script have you been living by? And are you ready to write your own? Once you see the script, you can begin to play a different game. But if you want to flip that game in your favor, you need more than awareness. You need strategy. Strategic thinking is the hidden language of power. It's not about brute force or working longer hours. It's about seeing what others miss and moving when others freeze. It begins with one key idea: leverage. Leverage is about doing more with less, getting maximum results from minimum input. And in the real world, it's not the hardest worker who wins. It's the one who understands where to apply pressure. Oprah Winfrey knew this. She didn't just host a talk show. She built a media platform that shaped culture. She understood that influence wasn't just about presence. It was about positioning. By leveraging her audience, her message, and her brand, she transformed a television segment into an empire. That's the power of strategic leverage. And you have it, too. But it might be hiding where you least expect it. Leverage can come from your perspective, your story, your resilience, even your failures. The second pillar of strategic thinking is pattern recognition. Most people treat life like it's chaotic and random, but look closer, and you'll start to see repetition, behavior, cycles, signals. Warren Buffett didn't become a billionaire because of luck. He trained himself to recognize market patterns before others even noticed they were forming. He didn't predict the future. He spotted the present more clearly than everyone else. But this isn't just about stock markets. Patterns show up in your career, your relationships, your habits. They reveal where you're stuck and where opportunities live. Are you repeating the same mistakes? Are you missing the same windows? Or are you starting to see the rhythm beneath the noise? Because once you spot the pattern, you can step ahead of it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Strategy isn't just about what you see. It's about how you define what you're looking at. This is called framing. Framing is the lens through which you interpret the game. And that lens changes everything. Two people can face the same obstacle. One sees a dead end. The other sees a pivot point. One stops. The other adapts. Why? Because of how they frame the situation. Is it a failure? Or is it feedback? Is it rejection or redirection? The frame defines the move. And those who master framing hold the power to rewrite outcomes. Which brings us to the third core: adaptability. In any system, the ones who survive are not the strongest. They're the most responsive. Netflix could have clung to DVDs. Blockbuster did. and they vanished. But Netflix adapted, then adapted again. Streaming, original content, global reach. But today, the better case study is YouTube. While traditional cable clung to rigid formats, YouTube exploded by doing the opposite. It gave creators freedom. It let viewers decide. And in doing so, it reframed the entire game of media. That's not evolution. That's strategy at scale. And here's what it means for you. You don't need more talent. You don't need permission. What you need is positioning. You need to uncover your unfair advantage, the one thing you bring to the table that no one else can copy. In the startup world, that's the edge that separates winners from noise. It might be your voice, your lived experience, your ability to see patterns others overlook, your courage to move when others hesitate. Whatever it is, find it and build from it. Because when you combine leverage, pattern recognition, framing, and adaptability, you create a strategic force most people will never understand. They'll call it talent or luck. But you'll know better. You'll know its design. So, the question is, are you reacting to the game, or are you learning how to play it? On your terms, because the next move is yours. And if you make it with strategy, you won't just play the game. You'll reshape it. Strategic thinking lays the foundation, but without action, it's just theory. To flip the game in your favor, you need to move from awareness to execution. Let's start with something counterintuitive. Most people believe big change requires big moves, massive décisions, grand gestures. But in reality, real transformation often begins with micro-actions. Small, consistent shifts, tiny wins that compound over time. Momentum doesn't start with a breakthrough. It starts with movement. Chris Gardner understood this. Before he became the man behind The Pursuit of Happiness, he was homeless, raising a son while sleeping in subway stations. No money, no safety net, no guarantees. But he focused on what he could control. He showed up, day after day. Suit and tie, unpaid internship. He pushed through every closed door until one finally opened. His success didn't come from luck. It came from persistence, applied strategically. That's the power of micro-actions. They don't look dramatic, but over time, they flip the odds. Now, let's talk about risk. Not the reckless kind, the strategic kind. Elon Musk is a polarizing figure. But one thing is undeniable. He bets big. And he bets smart. When he invested nearly all his personal fortune into SpaceX and Tesla, the risks were enormous. But those decisions weren't impulsive. They were calculated, researched, timed. The difference between a gamble and a strategic risk is preparation. You're not guessing. You're positioning. Ask yourself, what's the one risk you've been avoiding? Not because it's impossible, but because it's uncomfortable. That discomfort, it's often a signal, a sign that there's something worth moving toward. if you're willing to step into it. But what happens when it doesn't work? What if you take the risk and it fails? Here's the truth. Most people avoid. Failure is a map. Every wrong turn makes the next move clearer. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 different publishers. She could have seen that as final. Instead, she treated every rejection as redirection. What we call failure is often just early feedback from a system you're still learning how to navigate. But the real shift happens when you change the emotional frame. Most people frame failure as personal. They internalize it. They let it define them. But emotionally intelligent people view failure as external, temporary, and instructional. Not "I failed," but that approach didn't work. That one distinction can preserve your momentum when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Now, here's where things get powerful. It's not just about how you respond internally. It's about how you frame your story to the world. This is called narrative control. In the creator economy, this is everything. The most successful entrepreneurs and personal brands don't just sell a product, they sell a story. They don't just describe what they do, they communicate who they are, why it matters, and how it connects to something bigger than themselves. Steve Jobs didn't just talk about features. He framed Apple as a revolution, a movement for creative minds who think different. That narrative attracted a following far beyond tech, because people don't buy into logic. They buy into meaning. The same applies to you. How you speak about your journey, your values, your setbacks. It all shapes the way the world responds to you. And finally, let's talk about environment. You can have leverage. You can take risks. You can build a compelling story. But if you're surrounded by people and patterns that drain your energy, you're still stuck. Environment is more than physical. It's emotional. It's digital. It's relational. Who you follow, who you listen to, who you allow into your daily orbit. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." But in today's world, that also includes the content you consume, the conversations you tolerate, the habits you repeat. So ask yourself, is your environment pushing you forward or pulling you back? Because even the best strategy fails if it's planted in the wrong soil. Game flipping is not about overnight miracles. It's about consistent, strategic action layered with self-awareness, framed with purpose, and rooted in the right environment. And when you align all of that, you stop playing catch-up. You start playing to win. You can have the strategy. You can take the risk. You can even master the narrative. But if your environment is misaligned, none of it sticks. Success doesn't happen in isolation. It's not just about who you are. It's about what you're surrounded by. Jim Rohn said it best. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But in today's world, that circle isn't just physical. It's digital. It's psychological. It's energetic. Your environment is not just your home or office. It's the conversations you hear, the content you consume, the energy you absorb, If you plant a seed in toxic soil, it doesn't matter how good the seed is, it won't grow. The same is true for your potential. If you're surrounded by people who complain, people who stay small, people who see ambition as a threat, eventually, you'll shrink to fit the room. Even worse, if your digital environment is filled with fear-based content, algorithmic outrage, and performative noise, you're feeding your mind a constant diet of distraction and disempowerment. Most people don't realize this, but the algorithm is part of your environment, and it's not neutral. It's trained to reinforce what you engage with. So, if you consume anger, you'll get more anger. If you click on drama, you'll be immersed in it. If you linger on insecurity, you'll be fed doubt. You must learn to curate your inputs as fiercely as you would guard your home, because your focus is your fuel. This is where energy hygiene becomes essential. Just like you brush your teeth or clean your space, you need regular maintenance of your emotional landscape. Ask yourself, who drains me? What habits weaken me? What conversations leave me feeling smaller? And then start cleansing. Mute the noise. Decline the distractions. Exit the echo chambers. This isn't about living in a bubble. It's about protecting your inner clarity so you can move through life with precision. In the creator economy, this is more than personal. It's strategic. The fastest growing creators don't just post content. They control their ecosystem. They build teams, design workflows, and engineer environments that support high output. They manage energy like capital. They reduce digital clutter. They choose what voices influence them intentionally. And because of that, they scale faster. They burn out less. They stay sharp in a world built to dull your edges. So how does this apply to you? Audit your environment. Not someday now. Who do you talk to most? What content fills your feed? What spaces do you enter daily physically, emotionally, mentally? Now, ask a harder question. Do those environments reflect the future you're building or the past you're stuck in? Because here's the truth. You cannot outgrow a space that resists your growth. Sometimes flipping the game isn't about taking more action. It's about removing the friction, clearing the noise, creating clean conditions for clarity to thrive. And when you get this right, when your environment reflects your intention, you start to accelerate. Decisions get easier. Distractions lose their grip. And your inner momentum finally has room to move. The narrative of power is not just about what you say. It's about what you allow, what you tolerate, what you let shape you when no one's watching. So choose wisely, because strategy without structure breaks, and brilliance without boundaries burns out. You've come this far. Now, make sure the world around you doesn't slow you down. By now, you've seen how to think strategically. You've learned how to shift your environment. You've taken control of the narrative. But there's one truth left, and it changes everything. The game only exists if you believe in it. Alan Watts once said, "You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago." That statement isn't just philosophical, it's revolutionary. Because most of what we call life, the rules, the norms, the expectations, isn't reality. It's agreement. We play inside systems we never questioned. Chasing goals we never defined. Trying to win games we didn't ask to join. But what happens when you realize the game is optional? That's when real power begins. Throughout history, the people who changed the world didn't just play better. They walked away from the old board and built a new one. Henry Ford looked at an industry designed for the elite and asked, why not the average person? He didn't compete in the market as it existed. He redefined it. Mahatma Gandhi didn't fight empire with violence. He used silence, stillness, unshakable conviction. And in doing so, he rewrote the rules of resistance. Viktor Frankl, imprisoned in the darkest corners of human suffering, discovered a truth deeper than freedom, that meaning can be chosen, even in hell. He said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. But here's what unites them all. They stopped asking, how do I win the existing game? And started asking, what game is worth playing? And that brings us here to your life. Right now, are you living by design? Or by default, are your goals truly yours? Or are they echoes of someone else's ambition? You see, there's a difference between having a goal and having a mission. A goal is external. It's a finish line, a checkbox. It ends. A mission is internal. It's who you are. It guides your decisions, even when no one's watching. Simon Sinek calls this the infinite game. The infinite player doesn't ask, how do I win today? They ask, how do I keep playing, growing, expanding, long after others burn out? This is the shift. From competition to contribution. From performance to purpose. From being a piece on the board to becoming the one who designs it. Redefining success isn't about walking away from ambition. It's about aligning it. Aligning with your values, with your vision, with a version of you that doesn't need applause to feel real. When you let go of the game society sold you, you start building one that reflects who you really are. And paradoxically, that's when people start to follow. Not because you're chasing status, but because you've become magnetic, authentic, undeniable. So here's the question that matters now. Are you building a life that impresses others? Or one that fulfills you? Are you here to win approval or to leave a mark? Because the rules were never real. The game was always a projection. And once you see that, you don't need to play harder. You get to play smarter. Or better yet, you get to design a new game entirely. Not as a follower, not even as a player, but as the architect, the coder of the simulation. And that is where real power lives. You've seen the truth. The game was never fixed. It was designed by others, for others. But now, you have the tools, leverage, to multiply your impact, strategic risk, to unlock growth, narrative, to reshape how the world sees you, environment, to protect your energy and authenticity, to guide your path. You are no longer playing blind. You are no longer bound by inherited rules. The real question now is not what will happen to you, but what will you build from here? You can stay in the loop. Repeat the script. Keep chasing goals that were never yours. Or you can step off the path, redraw the map, and become the architect of a life that is fully aligned. The world does not need more players in a broken system. It needs more people willing to design a new one. So choose with clarity. Act with intention. Choose one area today: your habits, your time, your values, and redesign it like a player who refuses to be played.